So now that we've got our app logging in successfully through Facebook using Pass, we're going to move on to one of the big topics of the course, and that is push notifications. This is something that a lot of people get confused about and think is very, very difficult, but as always, if you just follow the right steps, it's really not that complicated. One word of warning though, you do need a paid Apple developer account. If you've made it this far in the course, I think that's definitely worth buying because you really should be thinking of apps that you want to get onto the App Store now, and you're not going to be able to do that without a paid developer account. But if you don't want to buy one, you won't be able to follow along on this chapter, I'm afraid. So let's dive straight in. There's a really good tutorial on Pass.com for iOS push notifications. It's not Swift, unfortunately, but it's quite easy to translate much of it into Swift. So if you do have any problems following along on the video, then feel free to go to pass.com/tutorials/iOS-push-notifications, and that will perhaps give you a little bit of extra help. So back over to our app. The first thing that we want to do is use a program called Keychain Access, which essentially is a program on your Mac which controls all the various keys, private and public, and passwords and things like that on your account. So you can see I've got a lot there. You may have some already there as well. So what we want to do here is to go to Keychain Access, Certificate Assistant, and request a certificate from a certificate authority. So click there. It doesn't really matter what email address you should put there, but put one that you can access, and I'll just copy that there. And we want to use saved to disk, and that will store the certificate on your local machine here. So I'm going to save it in my certificates folder there, and it will actually save as a file, and you can see it's been created on the disk. So I'll show it in the Finder, and there it is. There's my certificate. Great. The next step is to create an app ID, which allows us to refer to our app when we're requesting and sending push notifications. So let's go back over to Chrome, and we'll find the Apple Developer Member Center. I've got it there. So developer.apple.com. That will request you to sign in. So this is where you sign in with your paid Apple developer account. And we're interested in certificates, identifiers, and profiles here. So we're going to click on that link. And what we want now is an identifier to identify our app. So I'm going to click on identifiers there. I've got various others that I've created for other apps. But right now I'm going to create a new one. So we click on the plus icon there. And we'll start by giving it a name. So this is going to be my Tinder demo. The ID prefix is put in by default. We want to give it an explicit app ID, which will enable us to use push notifications. And app IDs normally come in a certain format. So you can see it there, com.domainname.appname. And the domain name can be a company name. It can be anything you like. So don't worry too much about it here. I'm going to go for com.appfish.tinderdemo. As long as that's a unique bundle ID and it has com at the beginning and then your company name or your name and then some recognizable form of the app name, then it'll be fine. And of course, the thing that we're particularly interested in is push notifications. We're going to ignore everything else for the moment, apart from the ones that are selected by default. Okay, click continue. Check that everything's okay, and then click submit. Fantastic, the app ID is now registered. Easy. The next step is to set up this particular app ID for push notifications. So if we go back over to app IDs and find the one I've just added, there it is. We'll click on it there. So you can see all the options we've got. Push notifications are configurable. That's what we want to do now. So click edit and scroll down to push notifications. Here we go. We're going to create an SSL certificate for this particular app ID. You can see we've got development and production ones. We're in development here, so let's click certificate next to that. So this will use a certificate signing request, a CSR file, which we've already created. So we can use the one that we made earlier. Here we go. So So I'm going to select that particular file and click open and then generate. This can take a little while. There we go, all done. I'm now going to download that and save it in my certificates folder. All done. I'm now going to take that certificate that I've just downloaded and click on it, and that will load up Keychain. And then if we click on certificates and search for Tinder, there it is. So there's my new certificate for Apple Development Push Services, com.appfish.tinder demo. Good stuff. Now we want to export this certificate. So we go to File, Export Items, and we'll save it as certificates. You can rename it to something more sensible if you like, and then just click Save. I'm not going to create a password for it. You can if you like. And here you just need to enter your login password. I'm not going to record this part if you don't mind. Here we go. So believe it or not, that did work. And here we go. There's the certificates file. We're about halfway through now, so stick with me and we'll be done in no time. So the next thing we need to create is a app development certificate. So click all certificates there and then add new. You might well already have one of these. You can see if I just go back there, I've got an iOS development certificate already. If you've got one, that's fine. But if you haven't, I'll show you how to create one. It's a very similar process to what we've already seen. So select iOS app development. You don't need any of these. We've already made our push notifications certificate, and then click continue. We'll need a CSR file, so I'm going to pause very briefly and see if you can remember how to make a CSR file in exactly the same way we did a few moments ago. I hope you managed it. We're going to go back over to Keychain Access and then Certificate Assistant, request a certificate from a certificate authority. And I'm going to put my email addresses back in. And I'll call this iOS Dev Certificate. And again there. Save it to disk. This time I'll rename it because I've already got one called that. So iOS Dev Cert. There we go. And click done. And now back over to the Apple website and choose that file. There it is. I'm just going to click there, open, and then generate. And that should generate our certificate for us, which we can then use to build our app with. There we go. So as before, download, save, and then you can open it up in Keychain Access. And let's see if we can find it. There it is. You can see it's made today. So iPhone developer, Robert Percival. Great. Okay. The next thing we need to make, and yes, there are a lot of hoops to jump through, but we're almost there now. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, if you haven't already done so, is add a device. So we click Devices All. I've already got my wife's iPhone there, so I can't actually add a new one, but I'm going to lead you through the process anyway. So you just click plus, as you might expect, and the name is whatever you want to call the device, so iPad or whatever it might be. And then we need something called a UDID, which you may have come across before. It's essentially a long identifier for your particular device. So there's a very useful website called whatsmyudid.com, which leads you through the process. So I'll just follow along for you here. So what you do is you open up iTunes on your machine, and then you connect your device, and you should see it there. And then you click on it, and then you click on the serial number, and then it will give you the UDID. So it's something like that, and you can just select it and then copy and paste it. So that's how you get your UDID. And then obviously you just paste it in there and click continue. And then that will add the device to your developer account. Okay, almost there. Now we need to go to overview and we need to create something called a provisioning profile. So that will allow your particular machine, your Mac, to run the app and send and receive push notifications. So we just click plus as before. We want an iOS app development provisioning profile. Select the app ID that we created earlier. So Tinder demo in this case. Click continue. Then select the certificate that we also created earlier. Click continue. Then select the device that you created earlier. Click continue. And now we just need to give this profile a name. So we'll call it Tinder Dev Profile and then generate. There it is. So just click download as before and I'll save it in my certificates folder. And then as before, click there. And this will load up the iPhone configuration utility. And then we just add it to our library. And now you can see it there in our provisioning profiles. One slightly strange thing just to point out is that if you try and scroll on this list, which you probably won't need to because you probably don't have lots and lots of different provisioning profiles yet, but when you do actually need to click on them and then drag down, and then you can scroll through and obviously see the one that you've just created. So just a slight oddity there. Okay, so now we're done with the Apple developer website. We now need to set our app up on Pass.com. So go to Pass.com in your browser and log in if you're not logged in already. And then find your app. We've already created the Tinder app for when we did the Facebook login in the last video. So get that one ready. Click Settings up at the top there. And then down the side, go to Push. And we want to enable push notifications. And then we need to select our certificate. That's the P12 one. So I called it certificates.p12. And then open that. And that should upload our certificate file, which will, any luck, will be okay. That looks fine. It's got the bundle identifier and everything looks okay. Okay. So it's finally time to go back over to Xcode and work with our app. The first thing we're going to do is change the bundle identifier for our app so that it matches the one on our certificate. So go down to the supporting files folder and click on info.plist. We've looked at this file before a couple of times. Once in the last video where we put in our Facebook app ID. What we're interested in this time is the bundle identifier. So get rid of any of that, and we called it, or I called it, Tinder demo. So just change that to whatever you used for the bundle identifier. It has to be correct. Now we go over to our project and click Build Settings and scroll down to Code Signing and check out Code Signing Identity. And we want to change that to the one that we just added, so our Tinder demo. That's the one that we're after, and that's changed all of them, which is great. Okay, now to add the code for our push notifications. So let's get rid of the bits we don't need, and we're going to start in the app delegate. So you'll remember this from when we added the application ID, when we first looked at how to integrate Pass, and also when we set up the Facebook utilities. So now we need to set up the push notifications, which is only 3 lines of code. And the first line, we're going to create a variable called push settings, which will have a type of UI user notification settings. And this is going to be equal to UI user notification settings, and we're going to create it using 4 types, and the types that we want to use are alert, and the categories we don't need to worry about, so we can just set those to nil. So essentially this just describes what types of notification we want to use, and we're just going to go for alert for now. And then we take the application and we register the user notification settings, and we're going to use our push settings variable as our settings, and then we take the application again, and this time we register for remote notifications. And that's it. There's a little bit more to do, but for now we'll just run that and see what it does, and we should find that it requests. There we go. Tinder would like to send you notifications. Fantastic. So let's allow Tinder to do that. So back to the app. There are 2 methods that are very useful at this stage, and I'm just going to paste them in because auto predict doesn't work for them and they're quite long and complicated. So you can obviously either copy them from the demo app in the next lecture or just write them down from here. But these are the 2 that we are interested in. Did register for remote notifications with device token. So essentially that's the request was successful. So for now we'll just put success, and this one is did fail to register, so we'll print fail. For now, you can use the error command, of course, here, the error variable, sorry, to get some more details about what the error is, and you can use the device token itself to get some details about the token with which the device was registered. But let's just run that for now, and unfortunately we're going to see fail, and that's because you can't use the push notifications in the simulator. So that's bad news, unfortunately, but we can do everything but. We can send push notifications from the simulator, we just can't receive them, so we're going to have to trust that that part did work. And of course, if you're running this on an external device, then the push notifications should work absolutely fine. So we're almost there. There's a couple of things I'd like to show you, and the first one is how to send push notifications from your app. As I say, we can do that in the simulator. So to do that, we go over to our viewcontroller.swift, and we're going to do this in the viewDidLoad method. So we'll just do it right up here before it's even logged in, and it's going to be pf push. So this is going to be our push notification that we're going to send. Let's set the message. So push.setMessage to whatever we want it to be. This is a test. And then we use push.send push in background with block. And all we need to do is put in the block. I'm actually going to pinch this bit of code from my block below and paste that in to give us the structure to work with. And the 2 variables that we're going to need are one which will be something like is successful, which is a Boolean, so that's what we get back, which will tell us whether or not the push request was successful, and the other is an error, which will give us more detail if there was an error. And for now, all we'll do is display is successful in the logs. So let's now run that, and with any luck it will fail, but then it will return true. Fantastic. So it's sent our push notification. If we can't see our push notification here, then how do we actually see that it's been sent? Well, we can check it over in our pass backend. So let's go back over to our Tinder app, and then we'll click on push. And there you go. You can see 2. There's one that I sent earlier as a test, and there's the one that we just created there. Fantastic. And the last thing I'd like to show you is that you can actually send a push message directly from Pass by clicking send a push there, and you can choose the types of device that will receive it, and you can compose the message there and then either send it now or later and set a certain expiry time. So that's a very easy way to do it. Of course, we don't have anyone to do it with because I haven't run the app on a real device as yet. But I hope you managed to get that up and running. So you should now have push notifications working on your app. If you're lucky enough to have a real device to work with, you should find that the push notification does indeed arrive on the device when sent either through Pass or through the app directly. So that's good. In the next video, we'll start to build our Tinder app up so it starts functioning like a Tinder app should, and in a couple of videos' time, it'll be complete. Congratulations on running through this push notifications tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.